Hi all. Today's topic will be discussing on mind mapping with income tax. I'm not going to teach you a subject, but I'm going to teach you how you can become a better learner. Right? So we are going to develop our learning skills today. So I'll start with a very small story. So it happened in the year 1953. It is about a person called Henry. So Henry was a very young boy then. He met with an accident, and due to which they had to be a head surgery which has to be done. So they removed an organ in the brain called hippocampus. So after this he started experiencing memory loss, in the sense after every 15 minutes he forgets what happened before 15 minutes. Okay, just like what happens in our exam hall. So we read for 15 minutes, after that we forget everything. So something like that he started experiencing. So there was a PhD student assigned to him, and she started understanding how Henry's brain works after the removal of hippocampus. Then the study came up saying how the brain works. So that case was very important case for mentioning how the brain works. So they came to understand that there are two kinds of memory. So they said one kind of memory is called the procedural memory, and the second kind of memory is called a declarative memory. Procedural memory is something like how do you ride a bike? Do you forget that? Never we forget. How do you drive a car? We never forget that. Okay, so that is called as a procedural memory, which is a long-term memory. The second one is called as a declarative memory. So declarative memory, we remember dates, we remember facts, we remember names. So that is called as a declarative memory. So Henry was experiencing some difficulty in remembering things because his declarative memory became very weak. Okay. Or in other terms, we could say these kind of intelligence can be categorized into two parts. So one is called as a crystallized intelligence, where this intelligence would develop due to experience. So in year one of practice as a chartered accountant, probably I'll know little thing. So as we become better practitioner over 8 years, the experience we gain, it will be enormous, and due to which I can perform well. So this is called as crystallized intelligence, which goes up with your experience. The second kind of intelligence is called as a fluid experience, which deteriorates as you age. So our task is to build the fluid intelligence, because crystallized intelligence definitely it's going to develop. So fluid intelligence is all about logical reasoning, logical thinking, giving solution to a problem. So that is called as a fluid intelligence. So going further, how do you use it in a better manner? So first of all, while learning, we should understand what kind of learners we are. There are 4 kinds of learners, as you see. So number 1, we have a learner called an auditory learner. So generally when we listen to a film song, we never forget that, most of us. So how do we do that? It's because of the auditory learning skills. So auditory learners, generally they love listening to things, they grasp things due to from audio. So the second kind of learner is called as a visual learner. Visual learners, only when they see things they can understand, right? So I was talking about the Henry's case. So certain people, they listen to Henry's case, they remember the facts. Second kind of learner, only when they see Henry's case as a real-time image, they can understand this. So these kinds of learners are called visual learners. The third kind of learner is called as a kinesthetic learner. So they have to work with certain things, a real-time work they have to do, so that they'll understand. For example, when we were kids, so how we were taught maths, it was very simple. They said, what is 10 plus 10? Today we could say it's 20. But when we were kids, it was a different mode in which they were teaching. So they said, keep 10 in your mind and keep 10 in your hand. So after 10, 11, 12, 13, and it goes on like that. So what did we do right now? So this is called as a kinesthetic learning skills. So we moved your fingers, right, and we due to that we understood addition, right? So we started playing with building blocks. Why did we do so? Because it's kinesthetic learning, right? Over a period, this got washed off, and we started adapting ourselves to auditory learning, which is very bad. Okay, so first we should understand what kind of learner we are. The fourth kind of learning skill is called as a read and write learner. So in certain classroom, teachers will say, okay, so when I teach, don't write anything, just listen to me. But people sometimes they do write even after the statement is made. It's not disobedience, because they are read and write learners. They are doing that only when they read and write, They can understand and register things. So this kind of learner is called as a read and write learner. So our first task is to understand what kind of learners we are, and based on our kind of learning ability, we should find teachers, and we should find the way we have to learn should be determined first. Then you have to start learning, right? So now, having understood the Henry's case, having understood what kind of learner we are, then we have to move on to we have to ask ourselves one question. What is that question? What is your constructive addiction? How do I convert my addiction into studies? So that is the next thing we have to learn. For example, I'm a movie buff. I can't stay without watching movies. So that is my constructive addiction. So I'm going to display what I have done with my addiction and how I have converted my addiction into studies. So now we are going to watch a small visual, rather a small video, from which we are going to understand how do we convert our constructive addiction into studies. So now here goes the trailer.
प्रॉफिट शेयर का क्या?
Wow, I'm Raghavan, working in Indian Embassy.
வாழ்க்கை பண்ணி சொன்னான்.
Yes, so having seen the trailer, so I'll tell you why we have seen this trailer. Okay, so first of all, let us understand how does our brain work. So coming back to this topic, so everyone would have watched this movie called Satai. I love that movie personally. Reason is I'm a big fan of Samudrakani. Okay, so in that movie they'll be in a subtle way they'll be talking about how the brain works. In fact, in one of the scene you could see Samudrakani, he writes red. The students will shout out saying the color is not red.
இந்த கிளாஸ்ல டிசிப்ளின் தான் இல்ல, சாக் பீஸாவது கிடைக்குமா? மிஸ்டர் பிசிக்ஸ் டீச்சர், கேன் யூ கிவ் மீ ஒன் செக் பீஸ்? தேங்க் யூ. இப்ப பாருங்க. டேய், இத படிங்கடா.
சார் நான் சார்
ஏன் சார் அவங்கள வேணான்றீங்க? இவனுங்க குடும்பத்தை கெடுத்தவனுங்க சார். டேய் சோடாப்பட்டி, இது என்னன்னு படிடா.
ஒயிட் சார்.
பாத்தீங்களா சார்? ரெட். அவன் சொல்றான் ஒயிட்னு. இது ரெட்னு அவனுக்கு தெரியும். சாரோட பிராக்டிஸ்.
Okay, why was it done so? It's fairly simple. There is something called as a right brain and left brain. Okay, so when you look at colors, okay, right brain generally recognizes color and the left brain recognizes the script. Okay, so when you write something called as a red, okay, the script which is called as red is being read by the left brain and the color is registered by the right brain. Okay, so when both the brains works parallelly, that's the best learning time. Okay, so your learning will be at the best when both the brains work simultaneously. So why this video was played? It's fairly simple. Okay, so it's to trigger both your left and right brain. So left brain loves analytics, right brain loves creativity. Okay, so whenever you give a summary to your right brain, it says this is all we are going to learn, nothing more than this. So you are convincing the right brain saying this is the maximum topic we are going to learn. Now the left brain comes and says that okay, these are the topics, these are the breakup of topic which you are going to learn. So that is the duty of the left brain. So by playing this video, the trailer, we said this is all we are going to learn. So we have given a summary. So your right brain is now convincing okay, this is what I'm going to learn. So now we are going to use our left brain to understand what we are going to learn. So we are going to learn a small topic called exemptions in income tax, but it's not I'm not going to give any boring lectures. It's going to be movie based lecture and you're going to learn with movies and a technique called mind mapping. So that helps you in a very big way to learn, and studies will become entertainment when you do this. So a small video for you about how to read the topic called exemptions with movies. So here the topic goes. Mr. Nerd is this millennial boy who believes in the concept parents should not treat their children as a retirement plan and children should not treat their parent as an investment plan. Mr. Nerd wanted to be a self-sustained and self-made college-going boy who's independent. He did not prefer to go for a part-time job as his time for studying will be encroached. Therefore, he decided to save tax for his dad and earn a percentage out of it. To put this plan into action, he decided to get a complete grip of Section 10 of Income Tax Act, which talks about income which do not form part of total income. Now, he goes on to flip the pages of Section 10 of Income Tax Act to thoroughly understand the provision.
Chapter 3 Incomes which do not form part of total income. Remuneration by official in the case of an individual who is not a citizen of India. The
Hello, collector sir.
India, the remuneration received by him as an official, by whatever name called, of an embassy, high commission, legation, commission, consulate or the trade representation of a foreign state, or as a member of the staff of any of these officials, for service in such capacity
Yes.
provided.
I'm Aarti, advocate.
Wow, I am Raghavan, working in Indian Embassy.
Gautam
Provided
Kesar.
that the remuneration received by him as a trade commissioner or other official representative in India of the government of a foreign state not holding office as such in an honorary capacity, or as a member of the staff of any of those officials, shall be exempt only if the remuneration of the corresponding officials or, as the case may be, members of the staff, if any, of the government resident for similar purposes in the country concerned enjoys a similar exemption in that country.
Right. So now we have watched this movie, or we could say we have understood the topic, right? So now when we started playing this video, okay, so we understood that there is something called exemption under 10 clause 6, okay, so which talks about exemption to officials. So first of all, so what are the movies we saw? First thing, we saw the scene of Ajit coming, who said citizen, right? So first we said that in case of a person who is a non-resident, point number one. So for example, we have embassies in India. So we have US embassy in India, where a person from US will be working in India. Whether his salary is taxable in India or not, or is there an exemption? So there comes a question. Okay, so coming to this, let me narrate a very small story that happened. It's kind of a political story, a story about the accidental prime minister. Okay, so why our former prime minister called Manmohan Singh was called the accidental prime minister? So it happened way back. So the law was very simple. So there was a person who narrated the law to the president. Okay, and he said the law is fairly simple. Let us discuss the law of it. So what happened was, how did our former prime minister Manmohan Singh was called the accidental prime minister? So there's a law in India which states that if a person of other country is becoming the prime minister of our country, okay, the same benefit should be given to our citizen in that country. So when you talked about that party, the party president, who was then the party president, they said she was not the citizen of India, she was citizen of some other country. Okay, so that other country did not allow our citizen to become prime minister of that country. So the corresponding benefit was not given to that lady in our country. Okay, so that was about the law. So similarly, when you talk about the income tax law, it says the same thing. So first of all, when there is a citizen of that country, okay, and we are giving an exemption to this person, the same exemption should be given for our person in that country. Okay, so only when our citizens are given benefit in that country, their citizens will be given benefit benefit in our country. This is a law that stands. So based on this story or based on this law, the entire provision was created. So now we go to a concept called mind map. Okay, how do we read that? We saw that story, we saw the trailer. So what is this mind map all about? Okay, so first of all, the first rule in mind map is so brain recognizes visuals than audio. Okay, so now the core of mind map is bring lot of images to your brain, so it becomes easy for the brain to understand the concept and appreciate the concept. So now we are going to open up something called as a mind map, and we are going to understand how this mind map works. Now you can see an image there. Okay, so coming to that image, we were talking about the remuneration to officials. The first image you see is the image of Ajit, who says, I'm not a citizen. So the first image is the person should not be a citizen of India. What is the second image? So second image, you could see the film Damdum, and where you could see Jairam talking to Lakshmi Rai, right? So he was employee of the Indian embassy, right? So similarly, there will be an employee of US embassy in India. So the person working in US embassy in India should not be a citizen. Second thing, he should be working in high commissioner or embassy, or he should be working as an ambassador. That is the second point. Third one, the corresponding exemption should be given to our person in that country. Okay, that is the third point. And fourth point, the person who has come as ambassador in India should not carry a business or profession in India. Four conditions satisfied, we could say the exemption is available to him. This is how a typical mind map is read. So similarly, when you equate images with a topic, it becomes easy, right? And also a brain loves increment. Okay, so what you have to do is, there is something called as a old memory and there is a new fact. So that's how the fluid intelligence work. So try to bring out a old memory. For example, you have watched a movie which has been registered in your brain. Okay, so try to equate a fact with that old memory. You'll be able to remember that for a very long duration, right? So that is how your brain works, right? So hope you have enjoyed this session, and I also equally believe that this would be useful for your studies, also for your future. And thank you all for the patient listening. Thank you.